Welcome back. 2023 here, back again with some knife therapy. And today's knife, I was debating on whether I was going to do a video on or not because it's currently sold out and they sold out quick. But I'm hoping that they do another run of these like he did for his last model in this series. And this is the Pena Knives X Series Trapper front Flipper. Well, that's a lot to say. This knife comes in at $274, and this is the all-tie version. They also had a green and brown micarta scale with titanium bolstered, and they had a marble carbon fiber scale with the titanium bolster, and they were all $274. That's good to see. They didn't have any different prices for the micarta, the tie. Like I said, the first batch that I did was a very small run and they went out in seconds. I missed it. I was lucky enough to have a good friend that decided to move theirs on and sold me theirs for what they paid for it. So you can't ask me much more than that. And I definitely will return that favor when I can. And what made this knife so attractive to me was that Pena's custom knives, or let's say the custom version of this knife, runs $850. That's pretty steep and they're very hard to come by. So whenever he said he was doing the X series, I knew it would be a quality piece because they're made by Riot, and the price tag, even though $274 is not cheap, it's in comparison to the custom, it's very cheap. And even for a Riot, that's, pretty good price for what you're getting. Let's jump into the specs real quick. It's a pretty small knife. You have a total length of 8.5 inches, a blade length of 2 3/4, a handle length of 3 3/4, thickness of 0.51, so right about average. The width closed in the pocket is 0.83 inches. The blade stock thickness is 0.116 or 3 millimeters. And the behind the edge thickness on my particular version is around 20 thousandths at 22 degrees per side. Let's get a closer look up at this knife. I think it's very, very sexy. You have a nice clip point blade with this swedge running about 3/4 of the way. You have a vertical satin finish on the primary and on the swedge, and horizontal satin on the flats. On this side, you have a nail nick right here, only on the show side. And you have the Pena Knives X Series on this side. And on this side, you have the blade steel designation, which is Bowler M390. As you can see, they have a perfectly executed sharpening notch. I like these a lot because they just cut out what they need to pass the plunge. And I find that material doesn't get stuck up in here that often because it's such a small area. So excellent. Look up top, you have some very nicely done fine jimping up here that doesn't bother me at all unless I need it to grip down. It grips down without killing my finger. At least that's what I've noticed. Let's close this up. And that jimping is also up here. And I'm not a huge front flipper fan, but I do like the way it's kind of like a concealed front flipper, how it's barely coming up, because a lot of front flippers like this busker have this tab sticking up, and it's a different flipping action. With this one, you're just putting your finger down on it and pulling back. And I can't do it, but if you can keep fingers off the lock bar and you can pull right here, some people can flip it right here. I can't. I don't have enough strength in my made a liar of myself. But on these, you rock back. You can do it in a few different ways. You can pop your finger out right here and flip it. With this one, you can either, like I said, put your thumb on top or use your index finger and pull back. But it keeps from having the tab sticking up, which I don't really mind it, even though I'm not, like I said, not a big front flipper fan. Let's close this up. You have full tie scales with a faux bolster cut in the scale right here. And as you can see, they're 3D contoured. Nice. And then they did a jig pattern into the titanium, kind of replicate like a jig bone. You have blue anodized titanium hardware with some pretty big torques. You got Torx T10, and one thing I love to see as well, so I don't have to change drivers. Every screw on here, including the lock bar insert, is a T10, and the clip, very, very nice. Huge plus. You have a blue anodized titanium backspacer, and you also have a 3D sculpted titanium pocket clip with a little milled line in the middle. Action is nice and snappy, good detent. Access to the lock bar is nice because they got the two milled grooves right there, being that it's flush, but that allows you to get your thumb in there, or you can stick your finger up in there too. Let's see. Sorry about that, peeps. One thing I noticed that I enjoyed whenever I was, doing some more aggressive cuts into some wood, that being that you have a pretty small handle at 3 3/4, which is usually, it's good for me. I mean, I can hold it back here, but being that they extended, you have this part of the tang still sticking out. You can, if you want, you can creep up on, kind of choke up a little bit, give you a little bit of added, I can't think of the word that I'm thinking, accuracy maybe, I don't know. Let's see, the ergos on this I've noticed were pretty darn good. Talk about a few things that I noticed when I was putting a lot of pressure in the cuts, but with cardboard and light duty task, they were really good. You have that nice, you have a nice little gradual slope coming back there. No, sorry, wrong knife. Scratch that. It's late, but it was fairly comfortable in hand. I didn't get too crazy with it because it's a pretty small knife and can't put that much pressure behind the cuts anyway. Let's close it up. It's riding on bearings. Nice action. As you can see, I have taken this apart. It did help the action out a little bit because they use that thick yellow grease in there. I don't know why. I hate that stuff. A lot of the Chinese companies use that. It seems to hinder the action on a lot of knives. It does have a pretty decent lock bar pressure. That's, probably aiding in that flipping action. The centering is dead on centered. And you have pretty much a 1-to-1 blade to handle weight ratio. That's another plus, like when they pack as much blade as they can without having to worry about that tip, even though it looks like that tip could catch you. The way the backspacer comes up right there, I can't catch that tip whatsoever. And I don't have to worry about catching the blade either. It's sitting far enough down in the handle. Let's get some quick size comparisons, and I'll touch on a few of my nitpicks and complaints. The first two are knives that I've modded with my Endo finish. The Isham Obstruse, and the CRKT Pilar with a Flytanium scale on it. So as you can see, the Pilar is a good bit smaller than the Trapper, and the Obstruse is just a little bit longer, so it's pretty much in the middle of those two. These next two were probably the closest in size, I thought. and that's the Hinder half track, that grind regrind. The half track is, I think it's a touch longer, if not the same exact length, but of course you have a thicker scales right here, so it fills out the handle a bit more, but you also have that guard, so you don't have as much handle room in the grip area. But this one right here, the Quiet Carry IQ, also wearing Miano. The Quiet Carry IQ is probably the closest feeling in hand to me, because even though the IQ has a little bit longer of a handle, it has this flipper tab coming down, so you get about the same grip area, being that you have this straight back right here. Basically, you know, if you have the IQ, you have an understanding of how the, you know, the handle feels. They're about the same width, same thickness, actually this is a little thinner, but about the same width, so pretty close, and they're pretty close in size. The IQ is a little bit longer, not by much. And two just common blades. Spyderco Delica. As you can see, the Delica is a good bit longer. And the Ontario Rat Model 2. The Rat Model 2 is also a little bit longer. And there you go, that's the size comparisons. Let's get the weight out of the way. .78 ounces, which I mean, it's super light in pocket, but we'll talk about that in a second. So overall, I love the blade shape. I'm a sucker for a clip point. Like the overall handle design. The jigging I can take or leave. Love the large hardware. Love the easy access to that lock bar. The grinds are pretty symmetrical. And I like that modern traditional look, and I can still open it one-handed. So let's talk about a few of the things that, you know, nitpicks. Some are, you know, bother me a little bit worse than others, but none bother me enough to want to get rid of the knife. So first of all, I wish he was able to make a larger first run so more people could have had their hands on it. I have no control over that. Also, I would have loved to see some thinner blade stock, you know, say like, let's see, like the blade stock on the bug out. You know, this is a larger knife and it's got thinner stock. I would have loved to see the same, at least the same size stock and ground a little bit thinner, but 20 degrees per side is, you know, it's good enough. It cuts well. But I'm into those nice and slicey blades, especially for a smaller knife. You're not gonna be using this for heavy duty tasks. I mean, I know I'm not, just because I can't get the power I can in a bigger blade. Let's see. Now, I say this right here with the caveat, you know, I would have liked to see some internal milling done, because there's none, but in turn, that would have made the price go up. So that's why it's just a nitpick. The reason I say that, even though it's light, it's pretty handle heavy. Let's see. You got to come all the way back here to be balanced. So it feels heavy in the hand because of the handle heavy. But like I said, nothing that would cause me to want to get rid of the knife. Let's see, the next thing I noticed, depending on, like I'll try to show you, pair of pants, depending on the pants and the stitching that I had, I noticed that, see, as you can see, it's hard to get it in the pocket. But that's how far it sits down. So not deep carry, but gives you something to grab onto and pull out. But I did notice that certain pants, being that this clip is sitting on that jigging, it would grab here and there. It wasn't terrible, but sometimes I did have to lift the clip to put it in my pocket. And I can imagine it'd probably shred some pants after a while too, going in and out. Even though this is, you know, this is pretty smooth. They rounded they rounded all the peaks off. You don't have any sharp areas. And it does lend a little bit of extra grip. You don't have a smooth area. You got some place for your fingers to go into. And sorry if my voice is getting worse and worse as the video goes. Let's see. This is something I don't understand, because I think every Riot made knife I've ever bought was like this. And I don't have a whole lot of them, but I just don't get it. They all have free spinning pivots. This is no exception. I don't understand. They make such fine quality knives. They use such fine fasteners. Why do you have free spinning pivot? I mean, at least you can hold back up right here, but that gives you more chances to slip and gouge your knife. I don't understand that. Definitely wish they would go to captured pivots, would be much nicer. And some minor hot spots. Like I said, cutting cardboard and lighter things like that, I didn't notice any hot spots, but one of the main reasons why I do wood shaving is so I can put a lot of pressure down, so I can feel anything that I wouldn't have felt, cutting light duty stuff like cardboard. And I did notice whenever I was bearing down that the peak of this lock bar right there was digging into this part of my finger. And also on mine, where they did this full bolster, right there in that valley, it caused a minor hot spot. Nothing bad enough to put gloves on, but just something to note. And it might not bother your hands. My hands are, not the best. Let's see. One more last little sharp spot, but I didn't really notice anything. But anytime you get a sharp spot, it just gives it an extra place to catch in your pocket. And that is where they cut the lock bar relief. These edges are pretty sharp, and that point right there on both sides. So, pulling it in and out of your pocket, it could get caught on that. I didn't notice any problems with it, but I did notice it when I was just fondling the knife, like we all do. But overall, I think for $274, I think it's a good value. Unless any of those nitpicks I talked about are deal breakers, I would say if he does another run, definitely check it out. I've been enjoying it. I like my smaller knives. It's nice and compact, lightweight. It looks good. This isn't my first choice, but beggars can't be choosers. And if they do another run, I might get a second one with my Quarta. That's what I really would have liked. But like I said, yeah, kind of had to take what you could get. And my buddy was gracious enough to hook me up. I'm not going to complain. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. If you were able to pick up one of these, let me know what you think about it. If you've had any issues or any of those nitpicks I talk about, were they problems for you? Or are you planning on picking one up if they do another run? And if y'all want them to, I'm sure let Enrique Pena know. That there's a lot of people wanting them. I'm sure he will do another one. I know it's not the easiest thing to do a big run because they have to front the money unless they take, pre-order payments. And most of them just don't want to do that. It's a hassle. So there you go. That is the Enrique Pena Trapper Front Flipper in the X series. Fine knife. Definitely think it's going to be a super popular one, and do another run. I'm sure they'll sell out, so be on the lookout. I would say if you're not already, subscribe to his Instagram page. That's where he kind of lets you know when the drops are going to happen. He told the exact day these were going to drop. That's a huge plus in my book. All right, guys and girls, I hope everybody's having an absolutely wonderful day. Let's have a discussion down in the comment section about this fine knife and what you think about it. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.